When you get shot with an arrow, what is there to protect you? Your armor. Especially heavy armor. Look at this. This guy is a tank. Nothing's getting to him. Now look at this armor. This is what we call a not tank. And yet this armor is still somehow effective. While definitely not as effective as this tank armor, it still functions perfectly fine at raising the defense level of the player, significantly. But it's obviously not covering anything. There has to be an explanation. Well, let's use our noggins for a bit.
Noggin.
Female armor in many fantasy RPGs and MMOs and MMORPGs is skimpy. It's so prevalent that it has become a norm, a cliché, a stereotype of video games. Sometimes it's so skimpy, you ask yourself, why? In some games, when you unequip your armor, your character puts clothes on, and they cover more than the armor does. How does taking off more armor raise your defense level? The higher up level armor shows more skin and is more effective. How? Look at what these girls are up against. Look at what you are fighting, Nariko. How do you think that will protect you? There has to be some sort of logical explanation. So let's start with the basics. Heavy armor greatly increases your armor rating. Obviously, it protects you from everything. The downside of it, though, is lack of maneuverability, and that you are carrying a lot more weight around. This is why the classes in these games, like the assassins, the thieves, and the archers, don't wear heavy armor. They wear light armor. While it may not protect them from a direct shot with an arrow, or a good swipe of the sword, it will protect them from the scratches and bruises that come along with running through a forest really fast. It protects their skin from sandstorms and sunburn, and it can be used as a sort of camouflage. But still, it somewhat limits the maneuverability of the wearer. So why not take more away? The ancient Greek knew that less is more when it comes to maneuverability and speed. During the foot races during their Olympics, their contestants would race naked. The lack of clothing made them faster, less wind resistance, less weight to carry. Remember, they didn't have skin-tight runner's clothing like we have today. So this proves that less is more when it comes to speed and maneuverability, which many fighters want. But this doesn't explain why many of these armors that cover none of the vital organs still provide such a high defense rating. So look at this. This is the same armor on each gender in a game. They each have the same defense rating. Do these look like they should have the same defense rating? Games like Terra are famous, or infamous depending on your point of view, for this sort of thing. As is Baldur's Gate, World of Warcraft, there's plenty others. And even many games that have normal or reasonable armor on most characters always have that one woman with the sexy armor that's just as good as the rest of them. How? Well, here's my primary theory. Almost all the games that have this skimpy yet effective thing going on with their armor are fantasy games, or at least have some level of magic involved. So, perhaps there's some sort of unspoken enchantment on all the armor that some wizard came up with. It's like a shield that the armor provides, but it only affects the exposed skin on the wearer. And since most people don't like seeing big, hairy, ugly men wearing almost nothing, it was mostly the female warriors who chose to use the enchantment. When you think about it, it's kind of perverted on the wizard's part. Someone's got an armor fetish. Though, this skimpy armor isn't restricted to just women. It's definitely more common on women, but there are plenty of games, again Terra, that have many sets of armor that flaunt the male body as well. Of course, they only show the really attractive males wearing this armor. Also, and the 80s were prevalent with this, many video game and movie testosterone-pumped muscle that will shoot you in the face with its fist type men were shirtless, and it's still somewhat prevalent today. So don't go saying it's one-sided, silly feminists. When a particular set of armor is revealing on both the males and females, it makes more sense. It may be a cultural thing for that class of warrior, like the barbarians. Or maybe the entire culture of the game involves skimpy armor. It's fine, as it's part of their world. Who are you to judge them in their fantasy world? Maybe it's too hot to be wearing too much armor or clothing. Many superheroes and supervillains don't wear much armor at all. They all stick to spandex, because it gives them maximum maneuverability, minimum weight of clothing, and intimidation through the sight of their massive muscles. Also, you don't really need armor when your skin is as hard as steel, or you heal in seconds, or you have a massive force field, or you can just dodge bullets. So if you don't really need armor and you're just gonna wear skin-tight clothing anyway, why not show a bit of skin? Or all of it? I'm pretty sure that's the logic that the supers used when deciding their outfits. Though maybe they thought they could use their bodies as a sort of sexual distraction to the fighting, which segues into my next point. Mai Shiranui's breasts. Let's take a look at them. A bit closer. Okay. You see how much they wobble? Why would anyone in a fighting competition move in such a manner unless they were trying to make them jiggle on purpose? Oh wait, she is doing it on purpose! She uses the ancient Asian technique of the kunoichi, the attractive female ninja. At the time, women were not warriors, but there were a choice few who were trained in the arts of ninjutsu, just as Mai was. They were also trained to use their gender as an advantage. Their Shinobi Shozokus, is that right? Would have easy access to expose their breasts, either partially or fully. Doing so would cause three things to happen in battle. First, it would confuse the opponent. Wait, what? A woman? What? Then, while not always, but often, it would make the opponent go a bit easier on the ninja, as women were seen as gentle, and not fighters, and especially not killers. This would also make the opponent show more mercy. So on the rare occasion that the woman loses, rather than being killed on the spot, she'll be disarmed and let go, or just arrested. And lastly, the bouncing barnacles would be a constant distraction to the enemy, which is the entire point of why Mai is purposely bouncing her bungalows. Sexual allure. Distraction. Which is another possibility of why skimpy armor is good. Sex appeal probably has a lot to do with it, and that would explain why it is primarily the female characters who wear such things. Most women would not be distracted in battle because of a man's rock-hard abs. If anything, it'd be intimidating, and thus give them more of an adrenaline rush, which would make them better. The only way I could think of male armor being distracting would be if it allows the dude's junk to fly around like a helicopter. How's that mental image? Luckily, not all games are filled with overly skimpy armor. Most make the female armor a bit more pleasing to the eye with a bit of skin showing, but for the most part keep it realistic. Characters like Shinoa from Castlevania I think are the best examples of a balance between attractive and functional armor. You see this? Full breastplate to protect her vital organs, and hip and knee and shin armor to protect any major damage to her leg joints. And she still has a bit of sex appeal going on, with the thigh and shoulders showing. Personally, I think this is much more attractive than this. But maybe that's just me. Bethesda does a good job with the female armor in their Elder Scrolls series. See these? Complete, full sets of heavy armor, and you can still tell that it belongs to a woman, even when you don't show the face. Because boobs. I think the elven armor looks very good on women in Skyrim. It shows their figure without showing their body. Bethesda did an excellent job. But then this happened. Mods. Now don't get me wrong, I love mods. I have over 100 on my Skyrim alone, but some of these are just... yeah. They took Skyrim and generalized the armor, making it look like another MMORPG. They even took the armor from Terra and imported it into Skyrim. And they even did so with Queen's Blade. Oh, Queen's Blade. This anime, how does it even work? Is there a plot to this at all, or is it just a bunch of ridiculously underdressed, massive cupped women fighting, and constantly cutting off each other's armor? How did you manage to get your kimono cut right on the butt? Well, if you're embarrassed by it falling off, then why are you wearing such a thing in the first place? Where is your... is it really behind that tiny thing? I sure hope it's not under that armor that's still there, or your lady lumps are lopsided. Also, why is your armor held on by a small strap and a loose belt? Is your hair groping you? How are those defying gravity? Fake. People can't even cosplay as these characters properly. They have to wear skin-colored bras underneath because these outfits are impossible! There are a few times where skimpy armor makes sense and is acceptable, but sometimes it's just game-breaking. Look at this. All these fully clothed pirates, and then boop! Here's their evil boss. Well, at least most armor, even the modded armor, covers the... You're covering everything except what you're supposed to be. You know, maybe there isn't a logical explanation. Maybe it's just because the game industry knows that every 12-year-old boy that sees a scantily clad woman on the box art will want the game immediately. Sex sells, after all, and the only explanation that I can think of is that skin-only enchantment on armor. And that's never touched upon in any game, it's just a theory. It's just the sex appeal, which is fine, I guess. It's just sometimes it's too much. It's hard to deal with.